Drinking water on an empty stomach is good for you. It flushes toxins. It kickstarts your metabolism. It wakes up your digestive system. You've heard this probably 100 times. You might even do it yourself. Wake up, shuffle to the kitchen, pour a glass of water before you do anything else, because someone, at some point, told you that was the healthy thing to do. And here is the thing. That person probably believed it. The person who told them probably believed it too. But today, I am going to show you something. Most of what you think you know about that morning glass of water is wrong. Not a little wrong. Not a half-truth that got slightly exaggerated. Wrong in ways that the actual biology of your body has been quietly contradicting this whole time. Today we're doing a full autopsy on this myth. 3 beliefs, 3 dissections, 1 verdict. I'll give you what the science actually says, and replace the mythology with the real mechanism step by step. Case file open, origin story. Where did this come from? Before we cut anything open, let's find out where this belief came from, because myths don't materialize from nothing. They need a starting point. And this one has a surprisingly specific one. The morning water idea has roots in a Japanese wellness practice called Mizu-wu no mu, which translates roughly to drinking water. Not a complicated name. The practice itself was formalized in the early 1900s as a structured daily ritual. The instructions were specific. Drink 4 glasses of water first thing in the morning, before eating, before talking, before doing anything else. Japanese wellness associations promoted this ritual as a treatment for a long list of conditions: headaches, high blood pressure, diabetes, even cancer. The claims were ambitious, extremely ambitious for something that was, at its core, just drinking water. When Western wellness culture caught on to this practice in the early 2000s, it spread fast. Blogs picked it up, health magazines ran it, Instagram made it aesthetic, TikTok made it a routine. Each time it was repeated, the original context got stripped away a little more, until what remained was a clean, simple rule: drink water the moment you wake up. Your body will thank you. That rule is now followed by millions of people every morning, and I want to be clear about something. It is not entirely wrong. There's enough real biology mixed in that it feels completely convincing, which is exactly what makes it worth taking apart properly. The myths didn't come from nowhere. They came from real biology half understood, stripped of detail, and packaged into something that sounds smart. Now let's see what is actually inside. Myth layer 1. Water flushes toxins from your stomach. Myth number 1. Drinking water on an empty stomach flushes toxins from your body. This is the most widely repeated claim in the morning water conversation. Search for it and you'll find thousands of articles saying some version of the same thing, that overnight, your body accumulates waste and toxins, and that morning water is what washes them out. It sounds exactly like something that should be true. Intuitive, clean, almost satisfying. Here is what the autopsy finds. It doesn't work that way. Your stomach is not a waste bin for overnight toxins. It is not sitting there in the dark, collecting harmful buildup while you sleep. Your body doesn't operate on a schedule where toxins pile up from midnight to 6 a.m. and then wait for your morning glass to sweep them away. The organ that actually handles toxin processing is your liver. The liver works continuously, not just during daylight hours, not just after you drink water. It neutralizes harmful compounds in your blood around the clock. Your kidneys are doing the same job, filtering your blood, pulling out waste products continuously, all night, every night. By the time you wake up, your body has already been running its detox systems for 7 or 8 hours without any help from you. Now, what does water actually do when it reaches your empty stomach? This part is genuinely interesting. Water moves through an empty stomach very fast. We're talking 10 to 20 minutes before it exits into the small intestine. It doesn't sit there. It doesn't scrub the walls. It doesn't carry anything out that wasn't already in the process of being handled by your liver and kidneys. The word flush does a lot of dishonest work in this conversation. It implies that toxins are parked somewhere waiting for a liquid to push them along. They're not sitting there. Your lymphatic system, your liver, your kidneys, all 3 are filtering continuously day and night, whether you drink water first thing in the morning or not. Water is important to that process. That part is true. Your filtration systems need adequate hydration to function well, but that has nothing to do with timing. Nothing to do with an empty stomach at 7 a.m. It is just about staying hydrated over the course of the day. Drink water. Yes, always. But the toxin flush mechanism, the idea that morning timing on an empty stomach is what triggers some kind of detox, that is a myth. The biology doesn't support it. Myth layer 2. It jumpstarts your metabolism. Myth number 2. Drinking water on an empty stomach jumpstarts your metabolism. I want to handle this one carefully because it is the most dangerous myth of the three, not because it is the most wrong, but because it is the most partially right. It has got a genuine piece of science buried inside it, and that is what makes it so hard to shake. Here is what is real. In 2003, a study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism measured what happens to metabolic rate after drinking water. They found that drinking 500 milliliters of water increased metabolic rate by roughly 30%. That boost peaked somewhere around 30 to 40 minutes after drinking, then returned to normal. That is a legitimate peer-reviewed finding. It has been replicated. Water really does produce a temporary uptick in metabolic activity. So yes, water temporarily increases your metabolic rate. That part is true. Here is where the myth goes off the rails. The study didn't test morning conditions. It didn't test empty stomachs at dawn versus any other time. The drink it first thing in the morning before you eat anything rule was not a scientific finding. It was an addition made by wellness writers and content creators who picked up the study, liked the number, and decided the morning framing made it more compelling. The metabolic boost from water is not morning specific. A glass at 8 a.m. produces the same effect as a glass at 2 p.m. The empty stomach variable plays no role in the mechanism. But here is the detail that changes everything. When the researchers looked at what was actually causing the metabolic spike, it wasn't hydration at the cellular level. It wasn't the digestive system waking up. It was your body heating the water. Cold water enters your body well below your core temperature. Your body has to bring that water up to roughly 37 degrees Celsius. That warming process burns energy. It is a thermogenic response. That is the mechanism. That is why the metabolic rate goes up. Not because of timing, not because of an empty stomach, because your body is spending calories heating a cold liquid. So yes, water boosts metabolism. But the reason has nothing to do with the story most people have been told. And there is something else worth saying here. The word jumpstart implies a switch getting flipped. Something that was off, turning on. Your metabolism doesn't work like that. It runs continuously. While you are sleeping, while you are lying still at midnight. It never turns off. You are not starting anything in the morning. You are adding a small thermal bump to a system that has been running all night without you. Myth layer 3. An empty stomach absorbs it better. Myth number 3. Drinking water on an empty stomach improves absorption. Your body takes in water more efficiently when there is nothing else present, nothing competing for uptake. Maximum efficiency. The logic feels clean, almost obvious. Here is what actually happens. Water absorption doesn't happen primarily in the stomach. The stomach's main job is not absorption. It holds and processes what you swallow. The actual absorption of water happens in the small intestine, and the stomach is trying to pass things into the small intestine as fast as it reasonably can. For water, that means 10 to 20 minutes on an empty stomach. Now here is the part that surprises people. When food is present in the stomach, water still passes through surprisingly quickly. Research shows water moves through the stomach in roughly 10 minutes even with food present. The food slows down the overall digestive process. Yes, but it doesn't hold water back in any meaningful way. The water still gets through fast. So what is the actual difference in absorption rate between empty stomach and full stomach conditions? For practical purposes, almost nothing. The small intestine is very good at absorbing water under normal conditions. Being empty doesn't accelerate that meaningfully. Being full doesn't block it meaningfully. The dramatic difference the myth implies doesn't show up in the data. But here is the part that almost nobody talks about. Drinking a large volume of water very quickly on an empty stomach can actually hurt absorption. If you pour a lot of cold water into an empty stomach fast, the stomach sends a rapid flush signal. The water moves into the small intestine before it has reached anything close to body temperature. The intestinal lining responds to cold, temperature-mismatched fluid by speeding up motility. Things start moving faster than ideal. In extreme cases, especially with large volumes of very cold water, you can trigger nausea, cramping, or bloating. Not because your body rejected the water, because you overloaded a system built for gradual, steady input. The empty stomach absorbs better. Myth isn't just wrong. It might actually be encouraging behavior that degrades absorption rather than improving it. People hear the advice, wake up, and drink a large glass of cold water as fast as they can. That is the exact scenario where the myth starts working against you. The real story, what actually happens inside your body, all three myths are on the table now. Opened, examined. Flushing toxins myth. The biology doesn't support the mechanism. Jumpstarting metabolism. Partly real, but the true mechanism works differently than the story you were sold. Better absorption on an empty stomach myth, and in some cases, counterproductive. So let's do the thing the myth sellers never bother to do. Let's follow the water from the moment you swallow it and look at what actually happens, step by step. The second you swallow, the water travels down the esophagus. It reaches the stomach in about 10 seconds. And here is the first thing the mythology gets wrong. Your stomach is never truly empty. Even after a full night of sleep, while you slept, your stomach kept producing gastric acid. It does that regardless. A small pool of digestive fluid sits at the bottom of the stomach, acidic, waiting. The water you drink in the morning arrives into that environment. Your stomach registers the volume. It registers the temperature. What happens next is real, and it is genuinely useful, just not for the reasons you've been told. Stretch receptors in the stomach wall fire off a signal. Something arrived. The vagus nerve, the major communication line running from your gut up to your brain, activates, and that activation triggers a chain reaction. Gastric acid secretion increases slightly. Peristalsis, the muscular wave system that moves things through your digestive tract, gently kicks in. Your gallbladder gets a signal to start preparing bile. Your pancreas begins a low-level readiness response. This is the piece that is genuinely, legitimately real. Morning water does tell your digestive system that the day is starting. That signal is real. Your gut responds. And that response is useful. It is priming the system for the food that is coming. But notice what I just said. The trigger is something arrived. Not water arrived on an empty stomach at precisely the right time. Any fluid would trigger the same cascade: a cup of coffee, a glass of juice, a few sips of warm tea. The mechanism that wellness culture attributes to the empty stomach and the morning timing is actually just the mechanism for consuming anything. The empty stomach isn't the variable that matters. The act of drinking is. The water then clears into the small intestine within 15 to 20 minutes. Absorption begins. Blood plasma volume rises. Hydration is partially restored from the mild dehydration that accumulated during sleep. That last part, overnight dehydration, is real. And it is actually the honest reason morning water makes you feel better. Not toxin flushing, not metabolism ignition. You just went 6 to 8 hours without any fluid. Your body is mildly thirsty. You drink water, you feel better because you rehydrated. That is it. That is the whole explanation. Why the myth survived. Who benefits from you not knowing this here is the question that closes any good case file. If these three myths are wrong, if the actual biology contradicts all of them, why are they everywhere? Why do millions of people believe them? Who benefits from the confusion? The answer is the wellness industry. The global wellness market was valued at over $5.6 trillion in 2022. A significant chunk of that value is built on rituals, and rituals need rules. Rules need reasons. Reasons need science, or at minimum, the appearance of science. Drink water in the morning because you are mildly dehydrated after sleep is accurate, but it is boring. It doesn't make you feel like you are doing something sophisticated. It doesn't make you feel like you've hacked your biology. Flush toxins, jumpstart your metabolism, maximize absorption with an empty stomach morning window. That sells. That framing sells detox water bottles with built-in infuser compartments. It sells morning ritual programs. It sells guided wellness courses and hydration optimization apps. The myth has commercial value. The truth doesn't sell anything. But the commercial angle is only part of why the myth survived. The other part is simpler and more interesting. The myth survived because it feels true. You drink water in the morning. You feel better. That part is real. There is no question about it. But your brain does what brains do. It connects the behavior to the explanation that was already sitting there. After 7 hours of sleep without fluid, your blood is slightly more concentrated than usual. Your cells are mildly thirsty. Your brain is particularly sensitive to hydration. Even mild dehydration affects focus and mood. You drink water, and within 20 minutes you feel sharper, more awake, more like a person. Your brain says, the water worked, what it doesn't say. This would have worked at any point during the morning. The empty stomach contributed nothing special. The timing wasn't the mechanism. The myth survived because it attached a vivid, satisfying story to a genuine sensation. You feel better. That is real. The story says your body was toxic and sluggish, and you cleaned it out. That is not. But the feeling and the story got fused together so many times, passed down through so many blog posts and morning routine videos, that separating them now feels almost disorienting. That is how myths persist. Not because people are gullible, because the real feeling and the wrong explanation get handed from one person to the next as a single package, and most people have no reason to open it up and look inside. Until now. Autopsy complete. Time to deliver the verdict. 3 myths dissected, 3 replacements to install. These are simpler than the myths, which is usually how truth works. Replacement 1. Drink water in the morning because you are mildly dehydrated after sleep. That is the real mechanism. That is why you feel better. You don't need 4 glasses like the original Japanese ritual prescribed. You don't need it at room temperature. You don't need to drink it in silence before speaking, which is apparently something the original protocol included. You need enough fluid to restore what your body lost while you were horizontal and not drinking for the past 6 to 8 hours. A standard glass somewhere between 250 and 500 milliliters is sufficient for most people. Your body will tell you if it wants more. Replacement 2. Water does produce a small metabolic boost. That is real, but the mechanism is thermal, not magical, and the timing matters less than the temperature. If boosting metabolism is genuinely your goal, if that is the outcome you are chasing, cold water actually gives you a larger thermogenic response than room temperature or warm water. Your body burns more energy heating cold water up to core temperature. That is the mechanism. Morning, noon, or evening. That effect is the same. The warm water, only morning ritual that circulates in a lot of wellness spaces, it is doing the opposite of what the metabolism claim would require. Replacement 3. Your body absorbs water continuously and efficiently under most normal conditions. The empty stomach variable is largely irrelevant to how well that process works. Consistent intake across the whole day is what actually matters, not hitting some optimal morning window before breakfast. The most evidence-backed hydration advice hasn't really changed in decades. Drink when you feel thirsty. Don't wait until you are badly thirsty, and spread your intake fairly evenly across waking hours. Morning water is good. It is just not a biologically special event. There is one timing variable that does have legitimate research support, and it is not about morning, and it is not about empty stomachs. Drinking water about 30 minutes before a meal, any meal, has been shown to increase feelings of fullness and reduce caloric intake at that meal. That effect is real. It shows up in controlled trials. The mechanism is straightforward. Your stomach has some water in it when food arrives, and fullness signals come on slightly earlier. That is timing that actually matters. But notice what it has nothing to do with: waking up, empty stomachs, dawn, or any kind of detox logic. It is purely about premeal volume and satiety signaling. So the verdict is this: morning water is a good habit. Keep it. Stopping it would be silly. You genuinely need to rehydrate after sleep, and building a consistent morning routine around fluid intake is sensible. But the mythology around it, the toxin flushing, the metabolism igniting, the optimal absorption window, discard all of that. Your body doesn't run on wellness rituals. It runs on consistent, adequate hydration spread across the day. Your stomach wasn't holding toxins overnight. Your metabolism ran all night without you, and your body was absorbing water perfectly well long before anyone told you to do it on an empty stomach at 7 a.m. The habit is fine. The story was wrong. Case file closed. Before you go, drop a comment. Did you actually know any of this before today? Or did you believe at least one of these 3 myths? No judgment at all. Most people who got this wrong learned it from someone who got it wrong before them. That is how myths travel. That is the whole mechanism. Tell me which one you believed. I am genuinely curious. I'll read them. Next case. We're going somewhere you've been to dozens of times, maybe hundreds. A physical space you walk into and somehow, every single time, you lose track of time. That is not an accident. The way the place is designed, lit, laid out, and stocked is not random. Every single detail, the floors, the colors, the music, the temperature, was engineered to produce a specific effect on you. And once you see the system, once you understand exactly how it works, you will never walk into that space again without knowing exactly what is being done to you. Case file opening soon.